Welcome to Limitless Sports with Brennan and Dave. We are here to create sports talk, outrageous takes, and everything in between. My name is David Young. I am a 25-year-old band director who loves sports, coaches softball, have a love for Ohio State football and basketball, everything Pittsburgh sport related, and a big sports fanatic that has been wanting to talk about sports for a long time now. I'm also here with my buddy Brennan. Brennan's going to talk a little bit more about himself and how this kind of created.
Hi, my name is Brennan DiPiazza. I am 28 years old. I am a receiving manager at Lee Supply Company in Charleroi, PA. I am a die-hard Penn State fan. I'm a die-hard Pittsburgh sports fan, and I love just talking about sports in general. Dave and I have been talking about this for about 5 to 6 years now, and it's finally happening. Dave, how exciting is it that we're finally doing this together?
It's crazy, Brennan. Like, we go back to when we were in high school together. We both went to Charleroi, and we talked when we were younger about different sports. And then once I went to college at Ohio State and Brennan's love for Penn State, we started talking more and more about college football. And we've been talking about this podcast for a while, and now we finally have some time to do it. So we're going to get started. And our goal is to kind of post one episode a week. So trying to get through a lot of college football, NFL football. My high school aspect of coaching is going to get incorporated a little bit with me knowing a little bit more about the high school sports and talking about everything in between. Even when we get to spring, we're talking about baseball and talk about a little bit more college basketball and things. So, buckle up. It's going to be a great ride. Today's show is just our intro show, talking more about what this is going to be about and how we're going to get there. So, Brennan, talk to us about, at least today, what we're going to be talking about in our little intro show.
Today we're going to be talking about the first few bowl games, maybe the first dozen or so, maybe a little bit recruiting, and we're going to end this show maybe talking about the COVID outbreak in the NFL this past week or so. So the first bowl game is the Bahamas Bowl, Middle Tennessee versus Toledo. Dave, I like Toledo. They're an 11.5-point favorite. They had a good season. What do you think?
I took Toledo as well, and I do want to make a disclaimer as we're going through these. We recorded this on Thursday, December 16th, so this is before any of those games happened, so don't think that we picked our winners based off the winners as they go through. So I do like Toledo in this game. Being an Ohio State grad, I have a love for the MAC because they're a smaller conference that we get to beat up on a couple times a year, and I definitely like Toledo in this matchup. Let's move to the next one, Brennan. I got the Tailgater Bowl, the Cure Bowl, Northern Illinois versus Coastal Carolina. It was a huge quarterback matchup that's going to come out of this between Rocky Lombardi and Grayson McCall. Last year, Grayson McCall was a huge guy on a huge state with Coastal Carolina, brought there into prominence, thought that he was going to be one of the top quarterbacks in the nation. Kind of had a fall-off year, but I like Coastal Carolina in this matchup. I still think they are in a great team, great setup. Coach got a lot of things going on, even with the whole mullet situation they got going on down there. But, Brennan, what do you got in this one?
I took Northern Illinois, and they're one of those teams. Every few years, they're playing in a New Year's Six game.
100%.
A few years ago, they're playing in the Orange Bowl, playing against Florida State. I think they ended up losing by 7.
Something like that, yeah.
So I'm going to take the Huskies.
It was a hard one for me to pick. Like you said, I remember I learned a little bit more about Northern Illinois back when they came to Ohio State and played in the non-conference game, and they were really good back then. This was a hard one for me to pick, but I did definitely go with the Chanticleers out of Coastal Carolina. All right, Boca Raton Bowl. We got Western Kentucky and App State. These are hard. When you have schools that are really small and you don't know a lot about them, you got to do a little bit more research. I will forever love Appalachian State because back when they upset Michigan back in the day on the field goal, I'm going to take Appalachian State because I'm a little bit of a homer and I got to support my Buckeyes a little bit. So thank you to App State. Go ahead with the victory against Western Kentucky. What do you got, Brennan?
I took Appalachian State as well, and you know what? They're one of those teams. When you get them on your schedule the first 4 weeks of every year when you're playing your cupcakes, you're in for a sandwich game.
Oh, you're scared.
It's a tough game. They almost took down my Nittany Lions 2 or 3 years ago. They ended up going to overtime, and McSorley threw a touchdown pass to Jahan Dotson to win the game.
I'll never forget that. I thought they were going to beat you guys.
You know, they took down Michigan, and I think they took down somebody else. They took down Tennessee a few years ago.
Right. They're a sneaky team, definitely. All right, Celebration Bowl. Two really small schools, South Carolina State and Jackson State. I personally really love Jackson State for what Deion is doing down there. I'm going to go ahead with Jackson State in this one. What do you got?
Jackson State, big. Deion Sanders has turned that program around.
Big?
Big. I'm talking
right.
3 touchdowns.
All right.
Deion Sanders has turned that program around, like I said.
I like it. I like it.
Flipped the number 1 recruit.
Oh, we're going to talk about that in our next show. That's a huge deal. It's a huge deal.
Jackson State, big.
All right, New Mexico Bowl. UTEP, University of Texas El Paso versus Fresno State. Another toss-up for me. I'm going to take Fresno State in this one. I do like their offensive play. They do like to score a lot of points. But I did have a little bit of struggle, but I'm definitely going to go with Fresno State on this one.
Bulldogs. 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 They're always an underrated team. They always win 8 to 10 games a year. Bulldogs. Bulldogs. Bulldogs.
All right. We're pretty even so far. What, we only had the one against Coastal
I
Carolina.
took Northern Illinois, and you took Coastal
So we've
Carolina.
been pretty the same. All right, let's see if we can change it up. I don't think we're going to change it up in this next one, though.
No.
Independence Bowl, UAB versus BYU. I think BYU got screwed here. Their issue is they don't play in a conference. They're playing independent, and they don't have a lot of
It's going to
big
help.
games.
It's going to help soon when they join the Big 12, and that.
But is the Big 12 going to be as large as it's going to be with Texas?
I mean, I know they're losing Oklahoma and Texas, but they're still
quality teams.
relatively quality teams. I mean, you still got the Oklahoma State Cowboys. You have
Cincinnati's going to be in there,
you have
right?
Cincinnati in there. You still have Texas Christian. Hopefully, that program can get turned back around.
Definitely. Yes, I felt bad for BYU in this one, but I think that
They should have
going to
been
win.
playing closer to New Year's Day.
Agreed. They're going to win big. I think. Give me BYU by at least 3, maybe 4 scores.
I'm going to say BYU by at least 17.
All right. Lending Tree Bowl. Another one that I thought a team kind of got screwed in. Eastern Michigan versus Liberty. I took Liberty again. I think they're just like a BYU with them. They're not having a huge schedule. They were undefeated for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're a quality team. Eastern Michigan's not that strong of a powerhouse. So give me the Liberty.
Give me Liberty by multiple scores. I think they got screwed. They should have been playing closer to New Year's Day.
That's 2 schools like that. I agree. All right. The Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl. This is a new one. I don't remember which bowl game this is. Because it changed. Every bowl game is we'll talk about changes.
It's every year. 10 of them change their sponsors.
So I don't know if this was a new one or what this one was. We got Utah State and Oregon State. I'm gonna go with a little bit of an upset here. I think a lot of people will pick Oregon State, but I'm picking Utah State.
I'm taking Utah State as well. I'm taking the Aggies, Dave.
Can we pick a different pick yet?
I'm taking the Aggies. That program has been turned around. They're a 10-win team. They won their conference.
Agreed.
Give me the Aggies.
All right, New Orleans Bowl. Louisiana versus Marshall. Ever since I watched the movie, I'm a big Marshall fan. One of my GAs in college, he actually went to Marshall, and his girlfriend was a drum major at Marshall's marching band in the Thundering Herd. Excuse me, girlfriend at the time, but now actually wife. But give me Marshall. I like Marshall in this matchup.
I took Louisiana. I just like the matchup for them.
All right.
Honestly.
All right. Myrtle Beach Bowl. I honestly didn't know they actually had a bowl game down there.
This is the second or third year for it, I think.
Where are they playing that game? Do you know?
No idea. I wish I could tell you.
I'm guessing it has to be in Coastal Stadium because there's no big stadium in Myrtle
On the
Beach.
teal turf.
Unless they're playing at like the Pelicans baseball field and they're changing it to a football field. I have no clue.
No idea.
But Myrtle Beach Bowl, big favorite for mine going down to Myrtle Beach. But we got Old Dominion and Tulsa. I'm taking Tulsa. The reason I'm taking Tulsa is a very underrated team. They gave a lot of big teams a big challenge this year.
They had your Buckeyes on the
They
on the
had
break till
them
halftime.
Oh, it was scary, but they
It was going
always
into the third
do.
quarter. They had them.
They always do, though. They're a quality team that plays up in big games. So
That's a team I'm surprised hasn't been in talks to join the Big 12, being in Oklahoma.
agreed. So I'm definitely taking Tulsa in this matchup. What do you got?
I have Tulsa over Old Dominion.
Okay.
Same reason as you. They always give bigger branded schools a run
Definitely.
for their money.
All right, Idaho Potato Bowl. We got Kent State versus Wyoming. So in this matchup, I'm a little bit of homer. I'm doing my master's degree at Kent State, but I'm still going to take Kent State in this one. This was another weird one for me. It's hard when you put two schools like we talked about earlier with like a South Carolina State and a Jackson State or a Western Kentucky and App State. Don't know a lot
it's
about these.
It's hard when they're not on TV all the time. You can't watch them every week.
I remember there was one time I think I was down in Florida and I caught a little bit of Kent State's game because it was on the Wednesday night MAC games. You know, when they play on Wednesday nights, which is weird. But give me Kent State in this one. Close game.
You took Kent State. I took Wyoming.
All right.
So finally, what do we have? Two or three different so far.
That's good. Okay. Frisco Bowl. We got UTSA, University of Texas San Antonio versus San Diego State. Talk a little bit about. We'll talk more about me in this and later on. In 2014, I was a U.S. Army All-American marching band member.
Yes, I do.
And I got to go down to San Antonio, and I didn't realize like where UTSA was, and they play in the Alamo Dome. That's their home stadium. So it's kind of cool to learn a little bit more about the university. But hard game. I think this is going to be a very tight game. Give me UTSA by a field goal.
Aztecs.
Really?
They're another one of those schools. I don't know why they're not in talks. They're always a good school.
I guess
10 wins a year. Should join the Pac-12 maybe. Give me the Aztecs.
We're going to talk about a lot about that expansion probably after the playoffs over, because I want to talk a lot about what would happen if a lot of teams start to go to different conferences and things. But cool. All right, Armed Forces Bowl. Anytime there's a branch of the military in the Armed Forces Bowl, you got to go with them. So Missouri versus Army, you got to give me Army. I think Missouri is one of the most overrated SEC teams. They shouldn't even be playing the SEC because they can't compete. Give me Army.
You remember that a few years ago. Missouri moved, A&M moved, Nebraska moved.
The stupidest move Missouri ever made.
I'm taking Missouri over Army. It kills me to do that, but Army, they just don't have the volume of athletes to compete with. I don't care what your record is, if it's 6-6, 7-5. You don't deserve to play in a bowl game. They just don't have the volume of athletes that even a school like Missouri would have. Give me the Tigers.
All right. The Frisco Football Classic. All right, another bowl game of small schools. North Texas versus Miami, Ohio.
I know who you're taking already.
Who am I taking?
I'm taking Miami, Ohio.
Why?
Dave, you're an Ohio State alum.
No, that's not why.
Over 10 years.
That's not why. Miami, Ohio, the home of Ben Roethlisberger.
That's the only good thing that ever came out of Ohio.
Watch that. But yeah, give me Miami, Ohio. I don't really know a lot about this one, but hopefully they can pull it out.
Red Hawks, like you said, Roethlisberger.
All right.
Give me Miami.
The Gasparilla Bowl, which I was really shocked they put two Florida teams against each other here. UCF, University of Central Florida, and Florida. I think Florida is going down the tubes. Half their players are leaving. I was optimistic at first. They gave Alabama a heck of a game early on in the season. I thought, okay, maybe Florida can hang this year. Not a chance. Give me UCF by 2 touchdowns.
I took the Knights as well.
Okay.
Like you said, Florida's going down the tubes. They're kind of going through a transition. Dan Mullen gets fired. Players go to the transfer portal.
Half their coaching staff got fired.
The whole coaching staff got fired. I mean,
right. I don't think they're keeping anybody. Have they hired a replacement yet?
Yes, they did. Raging Cajun coach.
Oh, you're right.
I can't remember his name right now.
He could change the program a little bit.
He could get them maybe back on the map where they should be winning at least 9 games a year.
Right.
But UCF's one of those teams. 2-3 years ago, playing against Auburn in the Peach Bowl, proclaimed themselves national championships, the only undefeated team, going to the Big 12.
You know what's crazy about that game though? That quarterback, forget what his name is. I'll look it up and we'll talk about it later when we talk about the transfer portal. He transferred to Florida State.
Mackenzie
Milton. Never did anything. He got that little bit of a showing out party when they played one of their early games in the year, but he never did anything. Like, he had a phenomenal career. Don't get me wrong. I mean, coming back from that leg surgery he had, that has to be traumatizing. But a little scary, too. So, all right. Hawaii Bowl. Every year, I think Hawaii basically plays in this because nobody wants to go there.
I don't know why they even have it anymore.
I agree. Memphis versus Hawaii. I am not going to go with the hometown team. I'm going to take the Memphis.
I'm going to roll with the Tigers. I'm actually taking the Warriors, hometown team. Fans are going to have first priority tickets. Give me the Warriors.
Okay. I think Memphis, I don't know. There's something about getting to spend Christmas Eve in Hawaii. It's kind of cool. I mean, they're their priority now.
They're probably there now or going today or tomorrow.
Yeah. So, all right, Camellia Bowl. Last one that we're going to talk about in this podcast. We got Georgia State versus Ball State. Ever since Georgia State made the big run in the NCAA basketball tournament with their coach and the guy that tore his ACL or Achilles, one of the two, give me Georgia State in this one.
I took Georgia State as well. Georgia State's one of those teams. They schedule an SEC school every year, have them for a while, then lose the game because they're not one of those prominent group of 5 teams. Give me Georgia State.
All right. So those are our bowl predictions from December 17th to December 25th. We'll talk about more in our next podcast, more of the bowl predictions for the rest of the game. It feels like we've been talking about bowls for a while because there's so many bowls.
44, Dave. 44, not including the Natty.
We need to talk about that. Too many. We got to talk about that later on. All right. To talk to our next aspect, we'll talk a lot about football and these and all sports, but we got to talk about the NFL. At this rate, on Thursday, this COVID outbreak is going to change a lot. I'm worried that they said at the beginning of the season they're not going to move games.
They're absolutely going to move games.
They're going to have
to. It's the NFL. They want to, not force forfeits and make their money, But
you know what's sad, though, about this is, in my opinion, I know they enhanced the testing protocol after Thanksgiving. If you're testing positive and you're asymptomatic, and there's a lot about this virus that we don't really know, and trust me, it's really ravaging right now.
And people, we don't want to get political with this show or anything like this.
No, but why can't you play?
This is part of the game right now.
Why can't you play? You're not sick.
You tell me.
You're not sick. Like, talking about this, there's 3 teams right now having a huge outbreak. If I'm the Raiders, they're supposed to play on Saturday, and today's Wednesday, Thursday, and this whole outbreak's coming out, and I'm having that feeling. I'm like, what's gonna happen? Screws us. Because look back to what the Steelers had to do back then. That whole Baltimore Ravens outbreak over Thanksgiving.
Jump through
play
hoops.
on Thanksgiving night.
They ended up playing Wednesday. Was it Wednesday the next week?
Was it Tuesday or Wednesday?
It was Tuesday or Wednesday. It was midweek.
And then they had to turn back around and play on Sunday or Monday. I think they moved the game to Monday. Because they moved that. They played the Redskins.
2 Monday night games. You're right. They were going to move it again, and they didn't.
No, they moved the Steelers got moved to the Monday against the Redskins after that. They gave them at least a day. But when you start moving games, it's a ripple effect. So how fair is it? So let's say they take the Browns and the Ravens game and they move it to what? Monday, Tuesday? And then you've got to play again on Sunday?
At this point, this late in the season, that's so unfair, especially for not one, but both teams vying for playoff spots.
Right.
I mean, Cleveland's still in the AFC North race. Vegas is still playing
I'll tell you
for
this.
a playoff position.
If the Steelers don't capitalize on this weekend, we don't deserve to be in the playoffs. You got the Browns with over probably about 20 or so players, no matter if they're starters or what, that aren't playing. Lamar Jackson's not playing this Sunday. And I don't even think their backups playing. I think they're going to their 3rd string. There's no reason why we can't capitalize. We're playing the Titans.
They're without
Derrick
their best
Henry's
player.
Not there.
Ryan Tannehill hasn't lived to the hype this year.
We're getting players back.
If you look, the line's been fluctuating. Steelers minus 1.5, 2.5,
really?
Even.
I didn't notice
few
that.
Days. Yeah.
You know why though?
That's
I wonder.
Via the ESPN app.
Because with our players that are like a little banged up, and now they're saying they're going to play. Like, will Joe Hayden finally play now? He's been hurt for how many weeks? He comes back. That changes a lot.
If Pittsburgh doesn't win this week, if I'm Stephon Tuitt and guys like that have been on the injury report, since the preseason, I'm not even playing because you know why? Look at these last stretch of games. You have Kansas City,
huge
Baltimore,
game. Especially with Melvin Ingram leaving to go to Kansas City. No, he wasn't happy. He's having a hell of a year for Penn.
Oh, absolutely, he is. He's rejuvenated that Chiefs defense.
And
right now, that's the team you don't want to play.
No, I mean, I don't know. It's frustrating as a Steelers fan because it's Ben's last year potentially. I don't think he comes back for another one. I don't know why he came back for this one when you lose half your offensive line. But there needs to be something done about this COVID protocol. They got to change something. They got to do something because, I mean, thankfully we've made it through 15 weeks of the season without a lot of huge things going on. You know, it's going to continue to happen. But there's got to be something that's talked about.
It's part of the game now. It's going to be part of the game until this ends, you know, if it ever ends, you know, I mean.
Right. I don't know. It's, you know, we'll talk more about the NFL, but what do you like this week, Steelers or Titans? Do you like the Steelers?
Steelers, close one. Sandwich game.
Think Boswell wins it with the last couple seconds, hits a field goal?
I'm thinking Tennessee misses a field goal to tie it.
Really?
Long one.
I don't know. I'll always remember I went to this.
I think Fitzpatrick and Watt and the rest of the defense rise to the occasion.
I do too.
I think Harris is on a roll. He's trying to hit that 1,000-yard rushing mark, which he can do this week.
But he only needs how many yards? About 20?
No.
40?
I think he needs 127.
Is that many?
I know
he was close.
He needs about 130 yards.
Okay. I don't know. I think I went to the Monday night game against the Bears. Because, you know me, big Justin Fields guy. Like, I want to go see him play in person. He had a heck of a game, came back in that game. But that's when, like, I realized the Steelers weren't who they were. They started to struggle that game. The next week they struggled against the Lions and freaking tied them.
Well, if you look at their season, you know, they caught a break with people being hurt, COVID list. Russell Wilson misses time. They won 3 or 4 in a row.
Right.
Put themselves back in the front of that division.
Look at last week. I mean, every team struggled. Didn't every team lose? Right. It's just
no. Cleveland won. Cleveland beat Baltimore.
Cleveland beat Baltimore, but
Cleveland
they leveled
leveled
the playing field. If we don't have that tie, I think we're basically all tied. So it's frustrating. I think there are ways that I could see them. I mean, we've got the Titans, the Chiefs, and who? The Ravens. Browns and Ravens. If we want to make the playoffs, we got to go 3-1. I think we can go 3-1. Lamar's struggling.
Banged up, can't. Baltimore's banged up. You know, they have guys that were bagging groceries at the beginning of the season that are playing running back. And to get back into the COVID protocol, they're saying today that that's unfair for other teams.
Right.
Teams do it every year. The injury bug, if you're lucky enough to avoid it, good for you. But Baltimore didn't avoid it. You know, they lost J.K. Dobbins for the season. They just lost Marlon Humphreys for the season a few weeks ago against us in that loss.
I don't know. I think you look at our last 14, I think we can beat the Titans. I think we'll lose to the Chiefs in a close one. I think we'll compete. We can't slow down Travis Kelce in the secondary.
No, Ben can't play in a shootout anymore.
No. But I think Ben won't lose to the Ravens and the Browns in his last 2 games against them.
No, this being Ben's last hurrah, I'm thinking they're going to make the playoffs.
But what does that
if
put
not,
us at?
They're going to go 8-1 and have the 500 year.
Right.
And
so
season they have 17
lose.
games.
Yeah, Tomlin's not going to end up losing, and it's blowing.
Well, I'm not a Tomlin fan, and a lot of people know that. These past few years, he's been coach cliche. And they don't want to upgrade players, and they bring these guys back that are so old and slow, and they get in their own way. And they can't play how they played 4 years ago.
So I had to look it up while we're talking about this. We're 6-6-1. So if we go 3-1,
we're gonna go 9-7-1.
That makes the playoffs, in my opinion.
Could.
I think
Indianapolis is surging. You still have Buffalo.
I don't know. But 9-7-1.
The Dolphins are starting to be relevant.
I think that puts us in
the 7 seed slot.
I don't know. I mean, if you look at the Ravens' last couple games, they play the Packers this weekend. Loss. They play the Bengals. I think there's another loss.
Yep.
And they play the Rams. Another loss. Maybe. I mean, they could lose out. They could go from 8.
Possibility of that. I mean, like I said before, they don't have a running back. They have Latavius Murray, who's older than dirt, I think.
Well, Devontae Freeman's having a decent year.
Devontae Freeman's having a decent year, but he hasn't been the same since he left Atlanta.
No. I see Baltimore going 8-9 to finish the season. Browns, you got the Raiders, but with everything going on this weekend,
Packers Christmas Day.
Packers Christmas. I could see them losing these next two games. I hate to say it again. They got us and then the Bengals. I mean, they could lose out.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is going to be: the Bengals are 7-6. So I already gave them victories against the Ravens and the Browns.
Mm-hmm. That's 9 wins already.
That's 9. That loss, their tie to the Lions, come back to bite us in the butt.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
if we don't tie them, we beat them. That's our 10th win. I don't think the Bengals get more. I don't think they win out. Because I think they're going to lose to the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
I could see them losing to the Broncos this weekend. You know, they win those 2 games against the Ravens and the Browns. That's 9. And
That game's at Mile High, right?
no, yeah, it's a Mile High.
That game's at Mile High.
And they're given.
That's one of the toughest
Hardest
places to
place to
play.
play.
If you ask any NFL player, that is one of the toughest places to play.
Yeah,
Because of the climate and being in the altitude. And,
like I got, and we'll talk more about this maybe probably our next one, so we can end the show up a little bit today. But I don't know, it's going to be interesting. So, all right, we hope you enjoyed our first show. This is going to be a little bit of a shorter one. We got a little carried away with a little bit of NFL topic here today. Our goal is always going to be putting in about 45 minutes to about an hour. We'll see how long that ends up getting. We're going to add more elements as we go through. With this being just our intro, I have a couple of my friends that are working on some intro music and some outro music. We're going to develop some segments as we go on with this, and I think this is going to be a great time.
Before we exit the show, Dave, I want to say, fans drive the show. Follow
100%.
us on Facebook. Comment or message us what you want to hear or don't want to hear. Let us know. Fans drive the show.
And I will say this to end it real quick. Grant Bednar, if you made it this far and listened, I know we talked about this. You gotta make some pulled pork or make some barbecue. We'll bring you on the show. We come eat some food. I'll give you more of a shout out. He's a parent of one of my travel players, so he was one of the first players that liked our
Free
page.
lunch.
Free lunch, maybe. He makes some mean pulled pork, and some brisket. But yeah. So if you want to come on here and guest, we would love to start a guesting list eventually and get that kind of rolling. So if it's for Dave and for Brennan, we hope you enjoy Limitless Sports with Brennan and Dave.
See you,
ya.
Dave.